Welcome, everyone. This is Wendy Castle with One Bite Nutrition. I'm happy to have Nikki here with us. Today, we're going to talk about different types of sugar. Nikki, we get lots of questions all the time about sugar. Is it bad? Are there certain types of sugar that are good? Most commonly, we hear a battle between natural sugar and added sugars. What's the difference between all of this?
Yeah, so those natural sugars, or what people refer to as natural sugars, are already found in those foods as they are, right? So there's lactose in dairy, there's fructose in fruits. So you have to separate those from carbohydrates as well. I always make sure to make that distinction of sugar is a type of carb, but it's not the only carb that's there. So now we're separating between total carbohydrates in a food, between sugars, and then we have that added sugar component too. So these are right, just that, right? We think of that name, added sugar. It's added to that food product. And this can be in any form, right? It can be as simple as table sugar or brown sugar. It could be something like honey or maple syrup or corn syrup. Even if the added form comes from a naturally occurring product, such as like fruit, right? Let's say it's extracted from the fruit and then added to another product, it's still going to be considered that added sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a diabetes educator, in regards to blood sugar response, it doesn't really matter if it's honey or table sugar, it's still going to spike. There's different reasons why we would use different sugars in different recipes, maybe taste, maybe mouthfeel, things like that. But when it comes to blood sugar response, they are all kind of equal unless the product has some added fiber or something like that. But um, simple sugars are going to spike your blood sugar similarly. So what makes them different to consume? Like, is there one better than the other?
Yeah, so kind of going off what you just said, right? The naturally occurring sugar, it's part of that whole food. It's mixed with like things like fiber, maybe protein, fat, water, all those different things in different amounts. And those added nutrients, again, they change how our body digests that sugar. It's going to be slower to metabolize them. And then the added sugar can be used in a product with the added nutrients like the fiber or extra water, but it usually isn't a prioritize, right? If we're adding an extra sugar to a product, I'm usually not thinking, oh, well, I need to add this too. So if we take something like applesauce with added sugar in it, getting that blood sugar is likely going to spike up faster because it's easier to digest. So our body's going to digest it faster. If we take something like an apple, right? It has, the same fiber, the same extra like water nutrients in it, but it doesn't have that added sugar in it. Decrease the amount of total sugar in it. Again, it's going to take longer for our body to process that, so we're not going to get as big of a blood sugar spike. So again, blood sugars are going to increase a lot slower there.
Absolutely. So one swap that I have found, not most recently, but one swap that I have found that has been helpful is instead of putting like brown sugar on oatmeal or honey or table sugar or whatever, type of sweetener or sugar you're trying to use, if you chop up apples really tiny and you put those in there, not only do you get a crunch from, after having, the mushy oatmeal, you get that sweetness. If you leave the peel
Mhm.
on, it helps with the fiber content as well. You can sweeten things and keep the fiber by using a whole product versus, going towards like a brown sugar or a table sugar or something like that. Um, so why is it important to kind of look at sugar? What type of health conditions are affected by having a high sugar intake?
Yeah, so a lot of things that we see, all the time. We have, unwanted weight gain, type 2 diabetes, liver disease, high triglycerides, and of course, we also see that increase in dental cavities too, especially in kiddos.
Yeah, it's really tough and I feel like when we train our kids to want sweet and over sweeten their oatmeal or over sweeten get them sweetened applesauce, things like that, they're trained to want sweet and just keep that palate going. Where if you switch to the other and like the unsweetened applesauce, their palate gets accustomed to that and then they don't need quite as sweet of things. So
Mhm.
really training them when they're younger. Particularly if you have like a genetic predisposition to any of those things, high triglycerides, diabetes. Being a diabetes care and education specialist, 1 in 3 people are going to get diabetes in their lifetime. Like that's a statistic that should blow you off your chair. Like it is insane how many people are going to get diabetes. And it's an epidemic, and we need to be mindful of what's causing that and how we can reverse that. Um, I'll get off my soapbox because I could talk about diabetes all day. But how much sugar is too much? What's like if somebody's trying to keep track of this, like what's a good general rule of thumb?
Yeah, so usually it's that 10% number. So 10% or less of our daily calories coming from the added sugars. Now, again, we kind of made that split earlier of added sugars versus natural sugars. Again, this is the added sugars that we're talking about. There's really no guidelines on the limit for those naturally occurring sugars, but that's not to say, it's a good idea to just go crazy, eat a ton of those either. Again, finding that happy medium there, which your dietitian can help you do to see what's going to work best for you. Again, taste-wise, having that sweet, if you're someone that really craves a sweet tooth all the time, having a little bit more of those naturally occurring sugars to start off with might be a good idea. And then we can slowly back down on them.
Absolutely. So we know we need to limit added sugars, and they're not always found in just like really common sources like candy and sodas. I think most people know that those contain sugar and we shouldn't have too much of them. But what about sources people might not think of that contain sugar?
There are so many out there, right? Things like yogurt, granola, or even protein bars, or something we see as like a health food. Condiments and dressings like barbecue sauce, ketchup, instant oatmeal. A lot of plant-based milks actually have added sugar in them. So it's, again, good idea. Just check that label of the product and be aware of that food. What am I actually eating? What's actually in here? Again, just so you can make those smart, educated decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the label on like barbecue sauce and ketchup, like the first ingredient is either sugar or corn syrup, and it's super depressing because it's like, who doesn't like a little bit of sauce sometimes? But when you look at what it does to your blood sugar, it spikes it so much. So finding swaps that are lower in sugar, like mustard. Mustard has no sugar; it's vinegar based. It's a pretty widely found sauce that you can use instead of barbecue sauce or ketchup. So finding little swaps here and there can be helpful. Um, you can find out more about different types of sugars on our blog. And of course, you can always ask one of our dietitians to take a look at your diet and see where we can make some of these swaps or try to cut down on your sugar intake. You can book direct on our website. It's onebitenutrition.com, or you can comment below.